There have been dozens of Avengers over the decades-long history of Avengers comic books, but there's always been what folks consider the big three. That's Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. So what I'm going to show you are comics from the big three. These are Marvel, mostly Bronze Age, a few Silver Age, pulled out of some collections I have bought recently, and I think they're pretty cool. I hope you like them. All right, I promised you Avengers Big Three. That includes Iron Man. And that concludes the Iron Man comics I have to show you. Iron Man number 200. I don't know why these collections, there weren't a lot of Iron Man comics. There was one, Iron Man 200. Nothing particular of note of that. Just that it's a round issue. I don't even think it's a key or anything significant happened. And frankly, there are not a ton of keys in the Iron Man run of comics. And you know, Iron Man was never didn't have the heights of popularity. I mean, he was always popular, but he wasn't like top tier A plus list before Robert Downey Jr. brought him to life in 2008. He was always a fine character, and now obviously he is one of the most well-known characters in pop culture history. So let's move to Thor. Thor, this is Thor 134. This is the first appearance of the High Evolutionary. High Evolutionary is going to play a huge role in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that is coming this year to theaters, and I am so excited about that. I was so excited. This is a kind of a beat-up comic. It's probably a 2.5, maybe a 3 if I'm feeling generous with myself. But still, it's a nice comic, Thor 134, so it's really early in the run of Thor comics when it shifted from Journey into Mystery to Thor solo title. A little later in Thor, this is 156. That's kind of a well-known Thor cover. I think it's frankly a weird Thor cover, but not that I dislike that. It's just a little too silly for me, but it's very a popular cover. One issue later, Thor 157, Ragnarok. It's always great to have a Ragnarok cover. And then what sometimes happens is I'll buy a couple collections and then I'll pull and there'll be the same comic in each of those collections. And by golly, look at all those. Thor 186. And frankly, I love this cover. There's a lot of fun stuff going on. First of all, you have Thor being kind of aged into look just until he collapses. You have Hela, who is just an iconic Thor villain. I thought Thor Ragnarok was a great movie and did her well. I always liked her in the comics, and you always thought when Thor ran into Hela, he was going to be in trouble. A couple issues later, she's still kicking his butt right there. Thor 189. We're going to jump ahead a little bit. This is Thor 214, which is great. That's just a very Marvel-esque cover, just a lot of action. Thor swinging his hammer. And again, just another great action comic. 246 versus Firelord. This is great. This is Jane Foster is in the back here, gun to her head. Pretty exciting. Final Thor comic is Thor Annual number 6. This has Korvac, which would be interesting if we would ever see Korvac in the MCU. I have my doubts, but who knows? But this has the original Guardians of the Galaxy, not the Guardians of the Galaxy that was formed in the Marvel Comics Annihilation event. And it's that team formed in the Annihilation event that we see in James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy in the screen. But the original Guardians of the Galaxy were much different, and that is these characters. I don't know if there's anything significant about Thor Annual number 6. If there is, let me know in the comments. I am unaware if there is. So now let's shift to Cap. We've seen Iron Man, we've seen Thor, now let's see Cap. Captain America, of course, started as Tales of Suspense, which was a Captain America Iron Man comic. So Captain America started at 100. This is 101. So Captain America, to say it again, did not start at issue number 1. That was Tales of Suspense. I won't bore you with the details and why Marvel has just allowed a certain number of comics on the news stands, and so they would do team up comics, and when a title would change, they wouldn't just start with a 1, right? They would need to keep that title going. So this is 105. I love this so much, and I was super happy to get 2 of them, because I mean, it's such a look at that action. He's sliding on his shield down a zip line. You got the swordsman, you got Batroc the Leaper. It's just a great, I mean, this is why we love comic books as a kid. I mean, comics are supposed to be fun, and that cover is fun. There's no, you don't even see Steve Rogers' face. There's, you know, it breaks some rules. It's kind of the modern rules of comics, where you have this, like, you know, singular posed hero, and it's just high gloss and glossy digital artwork, and this was just like, hey man, how can we make the coolest action scene possible? This next cover is 111. Now this is a very famous Captain America cover, because this is a Steranko. So Jim Steranko was a character. He was a go-go, just a swinging hipster in the New York scene, and he brought a whole lot of weird, unusual, interesting, artistic, commercial illustration sensibilities into his comic work, and so he would have a lot of covers that frankly stand the test of time of some of the best covers in comic history. Just really good stuff, and a lot of people love this cover. I am always happy to see it when I find it in the wild. This is notorious for getting yellowed, right? And so you can see how dingy and dirty the whites are, not vibrant. My comic book whitening skills aren't up to snuff enough that I could whiten that well. I could clean it, but I probably couldn't whiten it. That would require advanced techniques, but who cares? I like it like this. So number 116, I think, is another, this type of trade dress was very common in Captain America, and you can see how the titling, the font work even changed here for this issue, and I love that. That really makes it stand out, that red, white, and blue. You have all of these folks from Captain America's life and adventures, you know, starring the Avengers, and it's just another great title in a run that cover, I mean, in a run with just a lot of great covers. All right, here's a fun one. This is the first appearance of the Falcon. So this is Captain America 117, the very first ever appearance of the Falcon. It's another great cover. When you get a first appearance, it's always a lot of fun when they appear on the cover. That always helps the value of the comic, because it's just more desirable, right? A great example of that is X-Men Annual 10, which is the first appearance of Rogue, and it's just a bad cover. Rogue doesn't appear on there really, and it's just like a bunch of little vignettes. It's just a bad cover. This is a great cover, on top of being the first appearance of Falcon, of which he appears in the cover. So that just gives it a little extra oomph in terms of desirability. And so it's great. And the Falcon, that's his original look, if you've wondered. It's great because his second appearance comes just one issue later in 118. And then this is the final comic I have to show you, Captain America 119, the third appearance of the Falcon. He appeared and then had a great little storyline to kick him off, which was wonderful. All right, that's the big three Avengers: Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. I do not know why those collections I bought didn't have more Iron Man comics For shame. But they did have some great Caps, some great Thors. And again, I'm always happy to find these when I see them in collections, because this is my favorite era of comic books. This is my favorite, some of my favorite characters. And then obviously some of my favorite covers, and I hope you like those covers too. What I have next is, I'm not sure, I think some iconic DC covers. I also have some classic Claremont X-Men and earlier coming up. And so it was a couple of big collections, and the comics are getting all mixed up, but I'm pulling out some of the best things, and I will show you in some upcoming videos. So if you want to follow along, subscribe. All right. Hope you are doing great, and you take care. All right. Bye, nerds.